सो हेलो एंड गुड इवनिंग एवरीबॉडी। अभी तक हम लोगों ने अच्छा खासा पोर्शन कवर कर लिया है आपका क्लास 9th पोएट्रीज का। धीरे धीरे अब हम लोग प्रोजेस की तरफ बढ़ेंगे। देर आर 2 पोएम्स लेफ्ट, उनको कवर कर लेते हैं अच्छे से। टुडेज पोएम विच इज वर्क ऑफ एन आर्टिफिस, it is going to be a very remarkable poem for you. It is going to be a very moving poem for you. Why? Because it talks about a narrative which is not talked about more in a sense in today's time, but at the time this poem was written, it was very imperative and it was the talk of everybody, every female figure especially, or every feminist who was involved in the feminism movement. This was around the second wave of feminism. This was written, and this talks about a lot of things which is still ingrained in today's society and today's perspective, while somebody views women, and even women themselves view themselves in this way. So this is going to be a poem which is going to shift a lot of narratives. It is going to champion a lot of narratives. One thing that I remember when I read this poem when I was in school, I gave a speech on how Bollywood promotes misogyny, and this poem also reminds me that yes, in today's time, still there are misogynistic remarks and misogynistic viewpoints of everybody, which people do take for granted, then they miss it out. But it is very imperative that we talk about it, right? So the poem in its essence talks about a bonsai tree, right? A bonsai tree, you must realize, is a work of an art. It is considered as an art. Why? Because it needs a lot of attention to detail, it needs a lot of care, it needs perfect level of watering, perfect level of manure, and perfect level of pruning to keep that plant to the size of a very minuscule figure, right? That tree can grow up to heights. We will read that in the poem itself. But you need to make it in a way that it does not go that far, right? So this is an art which was established in Japan. So this is an Japanese art, right? So this is a Japanese art which is very remarkable, and it is very astounding how they managed to do it. Actually, you have seen it in India as well. Now it is coming in, and everybody who is of taste do try to have one or two bonsais in their house. If some of you are fortunate enough, you would have seen it as well, right? So this talks about a work of an artifice. Anne is missing here, but it talks about the work of an artifice. Now what does this mean? This means emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation, right? Why do I say this means emotional manipulation? Because this poem talks about artful deception, right? So if there is a woman, you are not going to completely, and you are not going to say that okay, you cannot do this, stop. Even if there is a child at your home and they start being stubborn about something. For example, let's say a chocolate, they want a chocolate but they have had few chocolates before, and you do not wish to give it to them. So you will be very मैनिपुलेटिव इन दैट सेंस कि अभी नहीं बेटा, आप 5 मिनट रुक जाओ, या फिर थोड़ी देर बाद, आधे घंटे बाद हम लोग जब खाना खा लेंगे, देन यू आर गोइंग टू गेट द चॉकलेट. इन द मीन वाइल द चाइल्ड इज गोइंग टू फॉरगेट. तो ये चीज़ हम लोग कॉमनली करते हैं. In the same way, the poem talks about artful deception, deceit, and manipulation. How, if you want to mold a woman to your ideologies, what you are going to say is, you are perfect like this. No, you do not need to change anything about you. You do not need to do anything. These are your boundaries. How are you going to establish those boundaries? You are going to say, you are very fragile. I know, I love you, but thing is, you cannot do this because of this, because you are not strong enough, you are not heavy enough to lift a rock, or you are not heavy enough to swing an axe. Basic, very out of the blue examples, but try to understand the point that I'm trying to make. No, you are not somebody who is mentally strong enough. I know, I love you, and I've seen it. You are not strong enough to work a 9 to 5. It is going to be very taxing for you. You are a woman, you cannot. So we all have seen this in our household. We have all seen this in our schools, when boys actually, if I talk to my female audience, they might have felt it in a way as well. When boys are playing volleyball or boys are playing cricket, there is a general consensus, and there is an accepted idea that no, girls should not play the sport, or girls should be treated very gently in the sport, right? मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि that is a wrong perspective, but if women are playing against women, that is absolutely fine. And even if they are playing against boys, yes, boys need to be gentle because we are physically stronger, but that does not mean that the women themselves can't play the sport. I have seen remarkable volleyball players in my time, female remarkable volleyball players in my time, and this is a story from my school and my childhood, that when we used to play volleyball, the men's team actually lost the first round and the women's team made it to the state finals. So that is also something that you need to realize, that women have that caliber. बहुत ज़्यादा बातें हो गई हैं. Now let's begin with the line by line explanation of the poem. This is written by Marge Piercy. She is one of the most imperative feminist writers in the second wave of feminism, and it is from the early 2000s, the poem itself. So she has written it in a very beautiful manner. बहुत ही rhythmically लिखा है. We will figure that out as well. And let's start. The bonsai tree in the attractive pot could have grown 80 feet tall on the side of a mountain till split by lightning. So what is she trying to say? The bonsai tree, the tree that has been pruned, that has been cut to size, it could have grown up to 80 feet tall. And she uses this adjective in an attractive pot. So this is the first example of artful deception or deceit, how the bonsai tree has been kept, has been sheltered, and has been made feel safe by that attractive pot, and have been made feel loved by that attractive pot by the farmer. And the bonsai tree itself does not realize, but it could have grown 80 feet tall. The bonsai tree could have gone as tall as 80 feet on the side of a mountain, but it would get split by lightning. There would come a time that it gets split by lightning. So what is the poem's image, for the first imagery that we get from the poem? This bonsai tree, which has been limited, the potential, most important word that you can use in your answers is the potential of growth in this bonsai tree was of 80 feet, but it has been cut down to size to about 9 inches. And what would have happened if it would have grown on the side of a mountain? It could have gotten split by lightning, but there is no assurance of that. Maybe the tree could have lived its entire life there and died a natural death. No, but the poem is trying to convey how manipulation works. Even if you would have grown 80 feet tall, you would ultimately get split by lightning. So let me protect you, let me keep you safe, and we would rather be in this state of limiting your potential rather than letting you go out there and letting you reach the height of 80 feet, right? Hope that makes sense. But a gardener, now this gardener is referred to as a male figure, right? Male figure. So the poem is also bringing in the narrative of patriarchy. There is a strong sense of patriarchy present in the poem. Sorry, my writing is very, very, very gross, I understand, but we will work with it. No worries. Carefully pruned it, right? Carefully pruned it. Pruned it matlab shaved it. है ना? So a bonsai tree needs constant shaving and pruning and cutting and constant interference in its growth, if that makes sense. So the gardener has carefully pruned it. It is 9 inches high. So it is 9 inches high. How tall could have it grown? 80 feet. So you can see the difference. It could not even reach 12 inches, which would have made it 1 feet. It could have grown 80 times more taller than what its size is currently. But it is cut down to size. It has been cut down to 9 inches. Every day as he whittles back, every day as he whittles back the branches. Every day when he comes, he whittles the branches. He removes or shortens the branches back. The branches are desperately trying to grow out. They are desperately trying to move out. But what does this gardener do? It cuts them down. He cuts them down every day, right? The gardener croons. The gardener croons, matlab the gardener hums while doing this. This proves that the gardener enjoys this process. The male figure is enjoying the process of hurting and cutting down to size the tree itself, right? So the gardener is enjoying that, but the tree is definitely not. It is desperately trying to grow. It is desperately trying to reach out with its branches, but this gardener is enjoying the process of it, and he is cutting down the tree to size. Okay, so I believe it is clear up to now. Moving on. It is your nature to be small and cozy. Now comes the emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation, artful deceit and trickery and deception. Right. So this is the point where emotional manipulations come into play. It is your nature to be small and cozy, right? It is your it is in your nature to be small. It is in your nature to be cozy, right? It is in your nature to be fragile. This is what it is trying to tell the bonsai tree, but we know it is referring to a woman itself, right? Domestic and weak. It is your nature to be domesticated, right? So it also highlights the fear-mongering the plant to not work. Being domesticated in the sense of woman. So if a woman is domestic, that means they are not allowed to work. They are not allowed to work a job. So it is also signifying that it is in your nature to stay at home, cook for me, cook for the children, wash the dishes. That is all you are going to do, and you are not allowed to work. So in this sense, in the poem's narrative, it is talking about the bonsai tree, but the deeper meaning is the woman cannot go out and work, right? And weak. It is in your nature to be fragile, right? Weak meaning fragile. In senses of woman, it would be fragile. This tree could have grown up to 80 feet tall. So an 80 feet tall tree can neither be domesticated, can neither be weak. It will be a huge tree. The trunk of it is going to be massive, and even if you want to cut it down at that size, it would take a lot of instruments, it would take a lot of resource to cut that tree down. So there is no point in calling it weak. This is an ironical statement in a way, that you call it weak when it had the potential to grow at that size, at that scale, right? How lucky little tree to have a pot to grow in. तुम कितनी ज्यादा ही अच्छी, मतलब तुमको अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है कि तुम इस पॉट में ग्रो हो पा रही हो. तुमको ये मौका मिल रहा है कि तुम इसी इतने से कन्फाइंड स्पेस में ग्रो हो पा रहे हो. तुमको कोई परेशान करने के लिए नहीं है, कोई चीज चोट पहुंचाने के लिए नहीं है. तुम बस छोटे से एक पॉट में सिमट के रह सकते हो और तुमको कोई कुछ कहने वाला नहीं है. Once again, trying to show the confinement of women in a greater depth, कि नहीं, these are the four walls you are going to stay in, and how lucky you are to get those four walls to stay in. कितना ज़्यादा अच्छा है तुम्हारे लिए. तुमको कोई बाहर जाके काम करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, बस घर पे रहो, खाना बनाओ, ये करो, वो करो, and by the time I'm back, it is all going to be okay. So that is what the deeper meaning is here. With living creatures, one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. अगर कोई जिंदा चीज है, लिविंग बीइंग है, तो अगर आपको उसकी ग्रोथ को डॉर्फ करना है, इफ यू वांट टू लिमिट इट्स पोटेंशियल, you need to start really early. You need to start in the ages of its what would be the best term for it, as it is a kid, basically when he is very small, like the life is starting to nurture. If it is a plant, we can say it is a, we need to start when it's a seedling, and when it's a woman, it can start at the time of uh, at the moment they are an infant as well. So that is what the poet is trying to tell us. Dwarf is not a very positive term. This has been used very negatively. Dwarf matlab limiting their potential, limiting the amount of growth that they can achieve. The bound feet. Now the bound feet is also referring to the woman. How is it referring to the woman? उनको कहीं जाने नहीं मिल रहा है. They are restricted to a confined space and they cannot grow out of that by taking steps out of the house, right? And how is it mentioning the bonsai tree? It is mentioning the bonsai tree. If आपने ये कहावत सुनी होगी, अगर कोई पेड़ 40 फीट आसमान में उगेगा तो उसकी जड़ें भी 40 फीट गहरी जमीन में होनी चाहिए, है ना? You guys must have heard that. बहुत ही फेल्ड अटेम्प्ट है एक ट्री बनाने का, बट फॉर योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. तो अगर कोई पेड़ है जो इतना बड़ा होगा तो उसकी रूट्स भी उतनी ही गहरी होंगी जमीन में. नाउ थिंक अबाउट इट. ऊपर से तो वो उसको प्रून कर देता है, अपनी सिजर्स से उसको विटल बैक कर देता है, बट व्हाट अबाउट द रूट्स ऑफ दैट ट्री? व्हाट अबाउट द रूट्स ऑफ इट? तो वो तो एक ब्यूटिफुल से पॉट में कन्फाइन हो गई हैं. अब दे इवन इफ दे आर ट्राइंग टू ग्रो, दे डू नॉट हैव इनफ स्पेस टू ग्रो, है ना? जो उनका पोटेंशियल है वो वहां पे ऐसे लिमिट हो रहा है कि उनकी रूट्स को ही ग्रो करने की जगह नहीं मिल रही है. सो व्हाट इट इज ऑल्सो सिग्निफाइंग, इट इज सिग्निफाइंग suffocation of self, right? Suffocation. आपने उसको इतना ज्यादा बाउंड कर दिया कि वो सफोकेट हो गया है अपने ही अंदर, है ना? द क्रिपल्ड ब्रेन, द हेयर इन कर्लर्स, द हैंड्स यू लव टू टच, है ना? अब इतना ज्यादा आपने उसको इमोशनली ट्रिक कर दिया है, मैनिपुलेट कर दिया है, उसके पैरों को बांध के रख दिया है, सफोकेट कर दिया है, बंदे की पूरी इंडिविजुअल ऑटोनॉमी खत्म कर दी है, तो उसका दिमाग सीधा तो रहेगा नहीं. द ब्रेन इज गोइंग टू गेट क्रिपल्ड. दैट इज व्हाट दिस लाइन इज सिग्निफाइंग. द हेयर इन कर्लर्स, जो उसके बाल हैं वो कर्लर्स में ही फंसा दिए हैं तुमने. नाउ दिस कैन ऑल्सो मीन कि द पर्सन इज सर्कलिंग ओनली. कोई भी एस्केप नहीं है उसके पास. It is all in circles, right? The hands you love to touch. This refers in the tree के sense में this refers to the branches. And what does the gardener do to the branches? It cuts them. So what is it trying to signify? You love to touch the hands of that woman, but what are you doing? You are cutting the potential of those hands. You are not letting the woman grow. You are not letting the woman be the woman that she can be, right? So this is the entire narrative of the poem. So let's talk about the themes of this poem. The main underlying theme of this poem would be suffocation, artful deception, suppression of individual autonomy. What does individual autonomy mean? Individual autonomy means the freedom of a person. It means that if you are free, then you are not limited. Your potential is not limited. In this poem, what is the the gardener doing to the bonsai tree? It is limiting the individual autonomy. Suppression of individual autonomy means that. Artful deception, he is being manipulative. He is being emotionally manipulative towards the tree. That signifies artful deception. Suffocation, how? The feet cannot grow out. The hands are cut. The hands are cut in half, right? They are chopped every day. So that also tells us the level of suffocation that tree is feeling. So all of these are the themes of the poem. There are further themes that would be that could be taken into consideration, such as your refrain or uh, fear of uh, rebellion, basically fear of rebellion, how the tree is not able to question or get back at the gardener at what he's trying to do, and the tree has been conditioned from a very early stage, so it cannot do anything about it. It thinks this is the right way, this is the right thing that is happening with it, which we all know is actually not correct. So with that we have come to the end of today's poem. दो पोएम्स आप में है, आपके सिलेबस में हैं, इसके बाद आपने देखा भी होगा, आई हैव प्रिपेयर्ड स्किम्बल शैंक्स एज वेल. दे बोथ टॉक अबाउट फ्रीडम इन अ वे, एंड द ट्री और इन द स्किम्बल शैंक्स पोएम आपको हम लोगों को पता चलेगा कि द कॉमनर्स, बट इन बोथ ऑफ द पोएम्स वी रियलाइज दैट artful deception and trickery is something that we need to save ourselves from, right? So with that we have come to the end of today's video. If you do have any further doubts, questions or queries, leave it in the comments, and till the time I see you next, keep smiling and keep learning.